He was counted out, written off, and told his time at the top was done. But after reclaiming his title in a gritty, comeback win at UFC 314, Alexander Volkanovski didn't just silence the doubters, he reignited his reign. Now, with momentum on his side, and a division still full of hungry challengers, the question isn't whether Volk is back. The question is, who's next, and how many can he take out before the year is over? After an epic return to form at UFC 314, Alexander Volkanovski finds himself once again holding the featherweight crown and standing at the center of one of the UFC's most intriguing divisions. And perhaps the clearest path forward begins with a name that's already familiar to him, Yair Rodriguez. Rodriguez, the explosive and unorthodox striker from Mexico, made a serious statement earlier on the same UFC 314 card when he dismantled Patricio Pitbull Freire with a calm, technical performance that showed clear growth since the last time he stood across from Volkanovski. That first meeting came in 2023, where Volkanovski won in dominant fashion via third-round TKO. It was a fight that, at the time, showed a clear gap in class and composure between the two. But now, nearly 2 years later, that gap may have narrowed. In his post-fight interview, Rodriguez wasted no time calling for a rematch, even suggesting the venue, Guadalajara, Mexico. Fighting in front of a raucous home crowd would give Rodriguez a major emotional edge, and for the UFC, it's a dream scenario, a redemption arc for the Mexican challenger, a hostile atmosphere for the defending champion, and a fresh narrative with real stakes. It's not just a rematch, it's a new chapter written with more fire, higher expectations, and potentially a very different outcome. Volkanovski, ever the consummate professional, responded with class. He admitted that prior to UFC 314, Rodriguez wasn't even on his radar as a title contender. But following Rodriguez's strong performance and bold call-out, the champ made it clear he wouldn't stand in the way if the UFC wanted to make the rematch. That's classic Volk. He's never turned down a challenge, and the idea of defending his belt on foreign soil, in a stadium full of hostile energy, is exactly the kind of scenario he thrives in. It's not hard to imagine him embracing the pressure and walking into that arena, ready to silence the crowd, once again. From a stylistic perspective, Rodriguez presents a different puzzle this time around. His timing looked sharper, his defensive movement cleaner, and most importantly, he fought with a patience that was lacking in their first encounter. If he brings that same approach into a rematch, he could force Volkanovski into deeper waters. On the flip side, Volkanovski has made a career of outclassing even most unpredictable strikers by staying composed, using angles, and adjusting in real time. He's also now coming off a performance where he overcame adversity, a knockdown in the second round, and responded like a true champion, winning the final 3 rounds with calculated pressure and volume. The storyline is compelling on every level. Rodriguez seeking revenge and redemption on home turf. Volkanovski looking to remind the world that he's not only still elite, but still evolving. If the UFC decides to headline UFC 320 in Mexico with this rematch, it won't just be a title fight. It will be a war layered with narrative, pride, and momentum. And if Volkanovski wants a busy year, this seems like the perfect place to start. While Yair Rodriguez offers a rematch loaded with narrative and crowd-fueled intensity, the more cerebral and potentially legacy-defining path for Alexander Volkanovski may lie in a different direction, toward the undefeated Russian phenom, Movsar Evloev. Evloev has been building quiet momentum for years, stacking win after win with a style that is far less flashy but no less dangerous. His undefeated record, now sitting at 17-0, is the kind of statistic that demands attention, especially in a division Volkanovski has nearly cleaned out. And while Rodriguez represents an emotional rematch, Evloev represents a cold, calculated test, the kind that could cement Volk's greatness once and for all if he passes it. Their potential meeting has already started to simmer publicly. Earlier this year, Volkanovski said in an interview that he wanted to take out Movsar within 3 months, pointing directly at the Russian as one of the last true names left to conquer at 145 pounds. After UFC 314, Evloev fired back, posting on social media, "Now, let's see what your word is worth," directly referencing Volkanovski's previous comments. It's not trash talk in the traditional sense. It's more of a challenge from one technician to another, and it's resonating with fans who understand what this fight would mean on a tactical level. Stylistically, Evloev is a problem. His pressure is unrelenting, his grappling suffocating, and his cardio seemingly endless. He doesn't overwhelm opponents with explosive power, but instead chips away at their rhythm, never letting them settle. Against Aljamain Sterling, a former champion and elite grappler in his own right, Evloev stayed composed and clinical, shutting Sterling down with top control and positional awareness. He makes very few mistakes, and that's where the challenge lies for Volkanovski. This wouldn't be a wild brawl or a fireworks-heavy slugfest. This would be a 25-minute chess match between two of the most disciplined fighters in the sport. Volkanovski, of course, is no stranger to high-level grappling. He's defended against submission specialists like Brian Ortega, stayed a step ahead of wrestlers like Chad Mendes, and outclassed striking maestros like Max Holloway. What makes the Evloev matchup so compelling is that it's hard to find a clear area where Volkanovski holds an undeniable advantage. It's one of those rare fights where both men would need to tap into every layer of their skill set, physical, strategic, and mental, to emerge with the win. And from a legacy standpoint, this is exactly the kind of opponent that matters. Beating Rodriguez again would reaffirm Volkanovski's dominance, but beating a man who's never lost, who many believe might be the future of the division, would elevate his resume to another level. It would be a passing of the torch fight, unless Volk has no intention of passing anything just yet. Whether the UFC wants to book this next or as a follow-up to a Rodriguez rematch, Evloev is circling, undefeated and undeniable. And if Volkanovski truly wants to stay busy and chase greatness, Movsar might just be the most meaningful mountain left to climb. With two high-stakes matchups potentially lined up in Yair Rodriguez and Movsar Evloev, what's becoming crystal clear is that Alexander Volkanovski isn't interested in taking a slow lap of honor after reclaiming his title. He wants to stay busy, stay sharp, and keep reminding the world why he's one of the greatest featherweights in UFC history. Even before his UFC 314 victory, Volk was vocal about wanting an active year. He spoke about getting right back into camp, defending his title multiple times, and refusing to be sidelined by long gaps between fights. It's an approach that speaks to both his competitive drive and his understanding of legacy. For Volkanovski, greatness isn't something you declare, it's something you prove again and again, especially after setbacks. And after the back-to-back knockout losses to Makhachev and Topuria, he seems more motivated than ever to put any doubts about his durability or decline to rest. Looking ahead, the UFC appears to have a golden opportunity to capitalize on Volk's momentum. If they scheduled a Rodriguez rematch for mid-2025, say UFC 320 in Mexico, Volkanovski could realistically turn around for a second title defense before the year's end. That could be against Evloev if he's next in line and still undefeated, or perhaps even a fresh contender who emerges out of nowhere, the way Diego Lopez did earlier in his own rise. Volkanovski's style lends itself to this kind of activity. He doesn't take excessive damage, his conditioning is always on point, and his team at City Kickboxing has a proven system for getting him ready for elite competition on short notice. Plus, there's a psychological edge to his willingness to stay so active. It keeps challengers from getting too comfortable or confident. While others might wait 8 months or more between fights, Volk wants to be back in there within 3 or 4. And let's not forget, Volkanovski has hinted that he's open to challenges beyond featherweight too, if the timing and opportunity make sense. While that's not the immediate focus after UFC 314, it's always lingering in the background with him, a possible second run at lightweight, maybe even a trilogy with Islam Makhachev someday, if he continues to clean out the 145-pound division again. But for now, staying active is more than just a plan, it's a mission. Volkanovski wants to prove he's still at the top, not because he says so, but because he's willing to show it 3, maybe even 4 times in one calendar year. He's not just defending a belt. He's defending a legacy, and he's doing it the hard way. Fight after fight, test after test, challenge after challenge.